This is the weekly water outlook for the southeast U.S. Started on May 12th, 2013. Well, it's been somewhat of a quiet week across parts of the southeast U.S. You might remember last week I mentioned that the Carolinas and Virginia could see some enhanced rainfall, and you can see that did occur, mainly over the western part of those regions. Areas in red received as much as 5 inches of rain, so some very significant rainfall over the western part of the Carolinas and parts of western Virginia. I mentioned last week, I remember now that I mentioned about some possibility of some flash flooding in those higher elevations. But it dropped off very quickly as we went further off to the east, and that's a long-term pattern that we've seen here from west to east, and you can see much heavier rain over western parts of the Carolinas and Virginia than over the east. Also, we've seen this flip-flop in precipitation over the last month or so from the northern part of Georgia to the south, and that's been a flip-flopping back and forth for a number of months now, where early in the winter recharge season there was a lot more precipitation over the southern part of Alabama and Georgia, and then now it's flop back to the north. So last week there was some modest precipitation, nothing to get all that excited about. Areas in green are a ½ inch or so. Areas in yellow are about 2 inches. So northern Alabama got some more of a soaking rain. Mississippi also received some very significant rain over the southern part of the state, more modest elsewhere. So if we look at the percent of normal, what we see are the areas that received that heavy rain over the western part of the Carolinas and Virginia averaged well above normal for the week. But over the southern area, the areas in red, that's well below normal. And really hoping that that southern section had started off the winter with some really significant recharge, but it's really been tending dry again. And even though there's been very significant improvement to the drought, we're out of the drought. I would really like to see a normal trend continue in that region, and I just don't see it occurring, at least in the short term. So we look at the soil moisture percentiles. We do see, as we get into spring, well into spring now, the green up has occurred. We're really ramping up the evapotranspiration rates. If temperature's warm, and I'm going to be talking about a warming spell, we're going to be able to dry out these soils a little bit quicker now. And you can see the upper parts of the northern part of Alabama, almost all of Kentucky and Tennessee, western parts of the Carolinas, all of Mississippi. It's pretty wet. And that is going to most likely begin to dry out quicker than in the past due to warming temperatures and increased ET. Now, soil moisture is more moderate, if not normal, over southern areas, southern sections. And what we see here are, right in this area here, a little bit more modest amounts of soil moisture, more closer to normal. And we could begin to dry out those upper soils, actually going a little bit on the dry side due to the warming temperatures. Now, stream flow has been definitely quite a bit higher over the winter months going into spring. There's been a scattering of flooding more recently. I'll talk about that just in a minute or so. But I wanted to point out that stream flow is quite high over the areas that receive that enhanced precipitation. Blue represents much above normal stream flow, and black is high. And you even see the area of the western Carolinas, which has been very, very low stream flow, has now pushed back up into the normal range. But generally speaking, the central and east is much more variable. Those red dots are below normal stream flow. I mentioned a couple spots in flooding, and what you can see here are there are a few spots here that are in flood. That's the area of the orange squares. High flows are in yellow, but generally this is very, very quiet for this time of year. Normally we would have a lot more points in flood coming out of the winter season and coming in out of the peak spring flood season. Now keep in mind it wasn't more than 3-4 weeks ago, which is climatologically the highest percentage of spring flooding. So with the streams, the lower reaches of the streams over the southeast U.S. taking a long time to get that water out, they should be much higher. So this, even though we're seeing some high stream flow, I think this is less than we've normally seen for this time of year. Now we've really been dominated by this upper pattern here. This is the upper jet stream currently, and it's this northwest flow. It's tended to keep temperatures cool. It's tended to bring some showery increased precipitation over the southeast U.S. In fact, you might have heard this week that there's been a record low number of tornadoes so far this season, and I think that's predominantly due to these upper lows, or these cutoff lows. It's brought really cool temperatures into a large part of the nation, and with cool temperatures, you really don't get much chance of severe weather. So this is the current pattern, but I'm going to talk right now that there's some pretty big changes in store for this week. Now by Tuesday, look how far north that jet stream pushes. This is the area of low pressure aloft. It's pushed off to the east. And look how far north that jet stream is from our area. It's well to the north. It really pushes up to the north. And when that jet stream is that far north, generally you think of a couple things here. First of all, you think warmer temperatures. And second, atmospheric energy that produces more of the widespread precipitation patterns is going to be well to our north, and it's not going to be enhancing precipitation. If we do get precipitation, it's going to be more localized, more mesoscale driven, but definitely not synoptically driven. Now over Virginia, you can see there's a little bit of jet energy early in the week. Could still be some precipitation, but the trend is definitely up towards the north for that jet stream. Matter of fact, late in this week, look at where it is, and not only is it well to the north, but the shaded area represents the higher winds, and those are really beginning to pull apart. So it's not only very far to the north, it's very weak. And if you look over the southeast U.S., a very quiet, very light wind flow, and this just looks like a very quiet pattern without any atmospheric energy, upper atmospheric energy. This is going to keep fronts well to our north. I wanted to show you, this is the ensemble of models as far as the upper jet stream. These are all the different model runs. And green is the climatological normal. So not only is the jet stream north, it's unusually north for this time of year. And normally it's more over the middle part of the nation, and that would bring that chance of precipitation and severe weather, but this is well to the north. Now, if we go out to 6 to 10 days, I wanted to show you this purple line is a zero anomaly. So it's saying that the jet stream could dip a little bit more to the south over the second week here as we get into the latter part of May. And that could bring some increased probabilities of precipitation. But it still looks like a fairly weak flow and nothing all that much to get excited about at this time for the southeast U.S. So the precipitation patterns over the next 7 days over the southeast U.S. I did mention that perhaps parts of North Carolina and Virginia could get some modest rain because of that jet energy, but everywhere else it looks very, very quiet, just maybe some scattered light precipitation, and evapotranspiration rates will most likely, if not definitely, exceed precipitation over the next 7 days. Now, if we go and look a little bit further, you can see from this climate model, week 1 is on the top. That shows that strong dry trend. And then week 2 is on the bottom. And week 2 is showing that jet stream dipping a little bit further south. And that could clip Kentucky, maybe Tennessee, and then maybe western parts of the Carolinas, perhaps Virginia. But I think into the eastern parts of the Carolinas and much of the southeast U.S., the precipitation should stay to our north. So this is the raw model output through May 28th, and just sort of give you an idea of the big precipitation trends. And this points out, once again, that definitely the majority of Mississippi, majority of Alabama, majority of Georgia look like it's going to be experiencing below normal precipitation through the end of the month. And I would say that the Carolinas, particularly North Carolina into Virginia, maybe a little bit more precipitation, but I still think it's going to average a bit below normal. So the takeaway this week, it looks like we're going to have a definite trend pattern with the jet shifting north. Temperatures will warm. Evapotranspiration will increase. Generally, it looks like a warm and dry period, and this trend towards dry conditions very well could last right through the end of this month of May. Hey, thank you for listening to this week's briefing. I appreciate it. And we'll be issuing information throughout the week, updating this briefing again next weekend. Thank you and have a nice week.